don't you think you're spoiling my husband a little too much? He said he was going to meet up with his brother again, and off he went to hang out. I have my own plans, you know. It's nice that you get along, but could you at least consider my schedule once in a while? Rosa, good evening. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that happened. I don't keep track of Richard's schedule completely, so I wasn't aware. But wait, did Richard meet up with Chris? I'm really sorry, I didn't know about this. And you said again. Does that mean Richard has been seeing Chris frequently? What? Ellie, are you seriously saying you don't even know what your husband is doing? Or do you know and you're just playing dumb? No, I'm truly sorry. I honestly didn't know. I'll check with Richard to confirm. I'll also tell him to reduce how often he meets with Chris. Please do. Look, it's great that they're getting along, but I value my married life too, you know. I can't just spend all my time accommodating you people. My apologies, but to be honest, it's hard for me to believe that Richard is meeting Chris that often. Are you absolutely sure he's meeting Chris? Huh? My husband doesn't have any other brothers, does he? What, are you seriously implying that because you can't believe your husband might be hiding something from you, you're trying to pin the blame on mine? Or are you saying my husband is lying to me? No, that's not what I'm trying to say. You know, maybe Richard is actually one of those people who seems friendly on the surface, but is secretly keeping all kinds of things hidden. I don't think that's the case. You know as well as I do that Richard isn't like that, don't you? Huh? How would I know? I didn't fall in love with Richard. I fell for his older brother. What, are you trying to insult me now? No, that's not what I'm saying. Besides, if he were meeting his biological brother, there's no reason for him to hide it from me, his wife. So even if he did meet up, it's probably just that I wasn't told, and there's nothing strange about that. It's just, I find it hard to believe he's been seeing Chris so frequently. Oh, so what are you trying to say? Are you insisting that my husband is lying to me? No, I'm not saying that at all. Well, I already know the truth. My husband told me everything. Is there something I should know? It just means your husband doesn't trust you. He's keeping all sorts of things from you. You might be right. In any case, I'll make sure to tell him to cut back on how often he sees Chris.
Did you hear anything from Rosa after what happened yesterday?
No, I haven't. I was planning to just say I passed along the message if she contacted me, but, well, she's probably busy with her own life, too.
Yeah, that's true. Still, why would Chris lie about meeting me? This doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, I don't want to get too involved in this either. By the way, the last time you visited your family, you didn't meet with or talk to Chris at all, right?
Of course not. I haven't contacted him, and I haven't met with him in ages. If anything, he's just doing whatever he wants over there and using me as an excuse. I doubt his wife suspects he's been reaching out to anyone he has a grudge against.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was surprised Rosa even reached out to me. She probably didn't expect me to pick up on anything, so she thought she could use you meeting Chris as an excuse to do something. But what exactly is she planning?
Chris probably didn't think I'd contact him about this either. Well, whatever. Let him do what he wants. We're better off staying out of it. It's not worth getting dragged into their mess. If Rosa keeps pestering you, feel free to block her. Her obsession has always been unsettling, and this is no exception.
You're right. Honestly, I still feel like she holds a grudge against me.
If she does, it's completely irrational. It's creepy, which is why we've kept our distance from those two. Even my parents avoid getting involved with them as much as possible. Chris never really got along with our parents, and Rosa clearly doesn't want anything to do with her in-laws either. They've probably found a way to coexist by staying out of each other's business.
Yeah, that's true, but why now all of a sudden? So I guess the best thing to do is just avoid them altogether. If Rosa contacts me again, I'll just tell her I've passed on the message and leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Hopefully she won't reach out again. Stop messing around already, you thief! When exactly do you plan on paying me back? Huh? Rosa, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. The other day I mentioned to my husband that I had reached out to you. Do you know what he said? He yelled at me saying, "Why are you contacting those low-life couples? Because of you two low-lives, my husband has been suffering for so long. So it's only fair that you pay compensation. You should return the money I lent you along with the damages." I seriously have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean, no idea? Stop pretending. I'm talking about the $50,000 I lent you for your daughter's wedding. You think you can just pretend it didn't happen? Well, guess what? I've already filed a police report. Wait, what? What are you even saying? I don't have a daughter. Excuse me? Are you seriously trying to deny something so fundamental now? So it was all true, huh? My husband warned me about this. He said you'd try to weasel your way out. When I asked him when you'd pay us back, he said he'd check with you, but now he's been gone for days. Don't tell me. You did something to my husband, didn't you? Wait, hold on. Calm down, okay? We seriously have no idea what you're talking about. Our daughter's wedding? We don't even have a child. How could there be a wedding? We couldn't have kids, you see? That's why we've been rescuing and raising dogs and cats as if they were our children. And $50,000? No, we've never borrowed such an amount. In fact, we've never even needed that kind of money. We're a dual-income household, and honestly, we're doing fine financially. Then where did the $50,000 that my husband took go? Like I said, we have no involvement in this at all. How would we know where your money is? But I heard you've been meeting with Richard recently. Okay, since things have escalated this much, I'll just say it outright. We haven't seen him. After you contacted me last time, I didn't bring it up again because you never followed up. But the truth is, Richard hasn't met Chris at all. In fact, they haven't seen each other in a long time. So that means your claim about Richard meeting Chris, it's a lie. What? You two aren't conspiring together, are you? Conspiring? Us? With Chris? Why on earth would we do that? For what reason? Chris has always been cunning, deceitful, and willing to take what doesn't belong to him. That's exactly why Richard has been keeping his distance from him for years. Even the in-laws didn't want anything to do with Chris, which is why we've all kept our distance from you and your husband, too. You seriously didn't notice? What? But my husband told me he was just being kind. He said it's better not to associate with the in-laws. He said there's no need to stay in touch or visit them, so I could do as I pleased. Oh, I see. Well, that sounds exactly like something Chris would say. He probably thought there was nothing good to come from you getting involved with his family, so he deliberately kept you away. Why would he do that? Well, based on how things have played out, I guess he borrowed money from you and used it for something. But he didn't want you to find out, so he made it seem like it was for family-related reasons, a perfectly justifiable excuse. Huh? Wait a minute. Are you seriously saying you two didn't receive the money? Show me proof. We didn't take it, and we haven't been in contact with him. How do you expect us to provide proof of something that never happened? Besides, the fact that we don't have a daughter is proof enough, isn't it? When my husband gets home, I'll ask him about it, but aren't you with him right now? For the last time, we haven't seen Chris in ages. Honestly, the fact that you contacted us now out of nowhere was shocking enough. We haven't even been in touch, let alone met with him. And yet here we are being accused of meeting him. It's absurd. But my husband told me this. He said you two were absolutely no good, that staying involved with you would only lead to trouble. He said not to contact you. And as for the $50,000, he told me it was because his younger brother wanted to impress his wife. He said his brother asked for the money secretly behind his wife's back. I thought, wow, Richard must be such a pathetic guy to do that. Even though he should be earning enough, he just couldn't stop gambling and chasing after women. I was honestly relieved that I didn't end up marrying Richard. Where do I even begin? It's astonishing how much of this is outright fabrication. Gambling and chasing after women, those are literally the two things Richard despises the most. And you're telling me you believed all of this nonsense about him? That was a long time ago. Besides, my husband told me Richard changed because he married such a terrible wife. He said that's why Richard became dependent on gambling and other vices. But once they had a child, he wanted to turn things around for the child's sake. That's why he needed the money. And that's why you gave him $50,000? My husband told me he'd make sure it got paid back. He said Richard earns a good salary, so it wouldn't be an issue. I am speechless. There isn't a shred of truth in any of this. If anything, the person who can't stop gambling and chasing women is Chris, not Richard. Wait, what are you saying? Chris, years ago, spent all the money in the house, Richard's savings included, on gambling. He thought he had a surefire way to win, but ended up losing everything. He completely lost the trust of the family. To make matters worse, he started chasing after women, blowing what little money he did win on them. That's precisely why Richard decided to keep his distance. And when we got married, you and Chris married shortly afterward. I have to say, the fact that you, who were obsessed with Richard, jumped at the chance to marry his older brother, it made all of us sick. Excuse me? What are you even talking about? Are you sure we're talking about the same person? Chris does put on a good front, I'll give him that. If Richard hadn't warned me about him, I probably would have thought he was a decent guy, too. But Richard made sure to caution me from the start, and I kept my guard up. And since Richard distanced himself from his brother, Chris didn't try to involve me much either. Meanwhile, you, completely oblivious, went and married Chris in a rush. I suppose it's understandable. You probably fell for him because he looks so much like Richard. I mean, he was kind and sincere, and yes, he looked like Richard. So I thought, why not marry the brother instead? He seemed to like me, too. Well, you were a career woman, weren't you? Chris must have seen the dollar signs. Of course, he was going to be interested, but rushing into marriage like that, this is what you get. But I loved Richard for so long. I couldn't stand it when he married you, someone divorced no less. So I thought, if I marry his brother, I can show you up. Hold on, I'm not divorced. Where is this even coming from? Wait, are you saying that's another one of my husband's lies? It all makes sense now. I thought it was strange of you to believe that we had a daughter when we clearly don't. But he told me you were divorced and had a child. He said you were a foolish young mother who got pregnant early, was abandoned by the father, and irresponsibly decided to raise the child alone. And that's why your so-called daughter, raised by such a careless mother, would make an equally foolish decision to marry young. He said Richard was burdened by all of this, which is why he changed so drastically. And that's why he told me to keep my distance from you. And you still gave him $50,000? Well, he said it would be funny to expose Richard's secret later, to humiliate you two and maybe even ruin your marriage. Ah, I see. And now all of that is coming back to bite you. It's almost poetic, isn't it? But I've been cutting back at work to focus on starting a family. We don't have much left. If this $50,000 is truly gone, what am I supposed to do? That's not my problem. We have nothing to do with your husband's lies. You believed him and you acted on it. All of this is on you. No, wait, you have to help me. I'll find a way to pay it back if I have to, but... Sorry, but we're done here. Wait, don't look away from your phone yet, please. You have to understand I'm desperate here. I can't face my husband alone with this mess. I don't see how that's my concern. You've dragged me into something that has absolutely nothing to do with me, and now you want me to help clean it up? You have to take responsibility for your own choices, Rosa. But if I'd known this was all lies, I wouldn't have given him the money in the first place. You have to see that. I was deceived too. Maybe so, but you didn't bother to confirm any of it with us, did you? Instead, you just took Chris's word as gospel and handed him $50,000. And now that it's gone, you want me to fix it? How is that fair? I didn't think I'd need to confirm it. My husband has never lied to me before, or so I thought. He always seemed so trustworthy, so sincere. But now I feel like I've been living with a complete stranger. You said it yourself. He's a gambler and a womanizer. How is any of that trustworthy or sincere? I didn't know he was still like that. He promised he'd change. He said he left that part of his life behind years ago. And yet you still thought it was believable that Richard, the man you claimed to have loved for years, would be the one gambling and chasing women instead? Rosa, do you even hear yourself? I don't know. I was angry, okay? Seeing Richard with you after all those years, happy and successful, it hurt. And when Chris told me all those things about him, I wanted to believe it. It made me feel better somehow, like I dodged a bullet. So you let your jealousy cloud your judgment. That's not my fault, and it's not Richard's fault either. You chose to believe lies because it suited you, and now you're paying the price for it. Literally. But Chris is my husband. How could I not trust him? You just said you feel like you've been living with a stranger, so which is it? Do you trust him or don't you? I don't know anymore. Everything is so messed up. My husband is gone, my savings are gone, and now I don't even know what's true and what's a lie. I feel like I'm losing my mind. That's unfortunate, but it's not my problem. Please, I am begging you. If I can just find my husband and figure out where the money went, I can fix this. But I can't do it alone. Why are you even coming to us for help? Chris is your husband. Isn't he the one you should be chasing down? He won't answer my calls, and I don't know where he is. That's why I thought maybe he was with you, or that you might know something. But if you really haven't seen him, I don't know where else to turn. Have you tried his usual haunts, the casinos, the bars? If he's up to his old tricks, that's probably where you'll find him. I've checked everywhere I can think of. He's not any of the places he used to go. It's like he's completely disappeared. Then maybe it's time to accept the truth. Chris isn't coming back, not with the money and not with any answers. No, that can't be. He wouldn't just abandon me like this. Why not? He's done it before, hasn't he? You said yourself that he's gambled away everything in the past. What makes you think this time is any different? Because he promised me. He said he'd changed, that he wanted to build a future with me. And you believed him, just like you believed every other lie he told you. Rosa, I hate to say it, but you've been a fool. I don't need you to rub it in. I already know I've been stupid, but I can't just give up. I have to find him. Fine, then go find him, but leave us out of it. We've got nothing to do with this mess, and I'm done wasting my time on it. Wait, please, don't leave me yet. What now? If you really haven't seen Chris, then maybe you can help me in another way? I don't see how. You could talk to Richard for me. Maybe he knows something. Maybe Chris reached out to him and didn't tell you. Rosa, I already told you Richard hasn't seen Chris in years. They don't talk, they don't meet up, and they certainly don't share secrets. But what if Chris contacted him recently, just this once? Richard might know something and just didn't want to worry you by telling you about it. That's ridiculous. Richard tells me everything. If Chris had contacted him, I would know. Are you absolutely sure about that? Yes, I'm sure. Unlike you and Chris, we don't keep secrets from each other. Then, what am I supposed to do? That's up to you to figure out, but I suggest you start by accepting the truth. Chris lied to you. He took your money, and now he's gone. The sooner you stop looking for excuses and start facing reality, the sooner you can move on. Move on? How am I supposed to move on when my life is falling apart? You rebuild. It's not easy, but it's the only option you have. Rebuild with what? I have nothing left. Then start from scratch, get a job, save up, and cut Chris out of your life for good. But I still love him. That's your choice, but don't expect him to change, and don't expect anyone else to clean up his messes for you. I can't believe this is happening. I thought I had everything figured out. That's the problem, Rosa. You thought you knew everything, but you didn't bother to look deeper. And now you're paying the price for your blind trust. I just wanted to be happy. Is that so wrong? No, it's not wrong, but happiness built on lies is always going to crumble sooner or later. Do you think there's any chance Chris might come back? Honestly, no. If he's taken the money and disappeared, he's probably moved on to his next scheme. But he promised me. And how many of his promises has he actually kept? None. Then there's your answer. So that's it? I just have to accept that he's gone and start over? Pretty much. I don't know if I can do that. You don't have a choice. But what if he does come back? What if he wants to make things right? Then that's up to you to decide. But if I were you, I wouldn't hold my breath. I guess you're right. Finally. Thank you for being honest with me. Don't thank me. Just learn from this and make better choices next time. I'll try. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a life to get back to. Wait, just one last thing. What now? If you do hear from Chris, can you let me know? Fine, but don't hold your breath. Thank you. Goodbye, Rosa. Goodbye. Chris never returned after the incident and has apparently disappeared without a trace. The situation surrounding his disappearance is murky, but what is clear is that he completely vanished from the scene, leaving behind a trail of confusion, unanswered questions, and, unfortunately, financial and emotional turmoil for all involved. His sudden disappearance was both a shock and, in some ways, a relief, though it didn't come without its own set of problems. We have no idea where he went or what he's doing now. Some have speculated that he simply ran away to escape the consequences of his actions, but others suggest that he may have gotten involved in something much deeper and eventually led to his fleeing. All we know is that Chris is no longer a part of the picture and he left a huge mess behind him. However, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, a horrifying truth came to light. It was revealed that Chris had accrued a staggering amount of debt, an amount so large that it was practically unimaginable. The sheer scale of his financial irresponsibility was enough to make anyone's head spin. How did he manage to get himself into this position? Well, the details are unclear, but from what we've heard, Chris had been living beyond his means for a long time, indulging in lavish purchases, taking out loans, and getting involved in financial schemes that only served to deepen the hole he was digging for himself. He had been hiding his financial troubles from everyone for years, perhaps hoping that he could find a way out or that someone would come to his rescue. Sadly for him, no rescue ever came, and his debts reached a point where they could no longer be ignored or concealed. And here's where the situation took a darker turn. It wasn't just Chris who had to bear the burden of this massive debt. No, it was Rosa, his wife, who was forced to take on this financial nightmare. The news that she was expected to pay off Chris's debts was not just shocking, it was infuriating. Rosa, for all her faults, was not the one responsible for Chris's reckless behavior. Yet somehow she found herself trapped in a situation where she had no choice but to take on this enormous financial burden. It seems that Chris had left her with no option but to carry the weight of his mistakes, whether it was through joint accounts, shared financial responsibility, or simply the legal ramifications of their marriage. Whatever the reason, Rosa ended up shouldering the burden of his debts, and it's difficult to imagine the kind of stress and hardship she must have experienced as a result. At this point, we had no choice but to sever all ties with Rosa. The situation was simply too toxic to be a part of. And we knew that continuing to stay in contact with her would only lead to more frustration and heartbreak. It wasn't just about the debts anymore. It was about the lies, the manipulation, and the emotional turmoil that came with being involved with Chris and Rosa. We blocked her from all communication channels, phones, emails, social media, everything. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary for our own peace of mind. We couldn't keep dragging ourselves down into the mess they had created. From that point on, we had no way of knowing what became of Rosa. What happened to her after we cut her off? Did she manage to pay off the debts Chris had left behind? Did she find a way to rebuild her life, or did she fall deeper into despair? We'll never know, and honestly, we don't really want to know. The truth is, we have no interest in being involved in that chapter of her life any longer. The situation has grown too complex, too painful, and the emotional toll has been too great. We had no reason to continue allowing ourselves to be caught up in it. If we were being entirely honest, there was a part of us that felt a sense of relief after blocking Rosa. Sure, we felt some guilt about cutting her off, but the overwhelming feeling was one of freedom. We had spent so much time and energy dealing with the fallout of Chris and Rosa's disastrous relationship, and at last, we could distance ourselves from it. The burden was no longer ours to carry. And yet, as much as we tried to distance ourselves from the situation, there was an undeniable sense of vindication that came with seeing Chris and Rosa face the consequences of their actions. If you could call it justice, then this was the justice they deserved. These two people who had shown nothing but selfishness and cruelty in their dealings with others were now reaping what they had sown. Their once pristine image had been shattered, and they were left to deal with the fallout of their choices, alone and isolated. It's hard to feel sympathy for them after everything that had happened. The truth is, as much as we tried to move on from it, we couldn't help but feel like this was the outcome they had earned. For us, their downfall felt almost like karma. Chris and Rose's relationship had been toxic from the beginning. It was built on lies, manipulation, and an utter lack of accountability. They had both contributed to the mess they found themselves in, and it was difficult to feel sorry for either of them. In the end, they were alone, and no amount of excuses or apologies could change that. Looking at the situation from a distance, it's hard not to feel a sense of closure. We had seen Chris and Rosa for what they truly were, and while it took a long time for the truth to come out, we finally know where we stood. They had manipulated and lied to everyone around them, and now they were left to deal with the consequences of their actions. It's not that we enjoy seeing people suffer, but in this case, it was hard to see their downfall as anything other than just. They had taken advantage of others for far too long, and now it was their turn to face the consequences. There's a certain satisfaction that comes with knowing that those who hurt others will eventually be held accountable. Chris and Rosa may have thought they could escape the repercussions of their actions, but the reality caught up with them. Looking back, it's almost surreal to think how things turned out. Chris, who once seemed so confident and in control, was now a ghost. A man who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a pile of debts and broken relationships. Rosa, who may have once been seen as an innocent victim, turned out to be just as complicit in their mess as her husband. Together, they had created a situation so destructive that it had consumed their lives and the lives of those around them. But for us, the most important thing was that we had finally broken free from their chaos. We no longer had to be a part of their toxic world, and that in itself was a relief. We could finally focus on our own lives without the constant weight of Chris and Rosa's drama hanging over us. Their downfall was a reminder of how important it is to take responsibility for your actions. Chris and Rosa had spent years avoiding accountability, hiding behind excuses, and pretending that everything was fine. But in the end, they had no choice but to face the consequences of their behavior. And while their downfall may have been tragic for them, it was also a lesson in the importance of honesty, integrity, and accountability. We've moved on from their story, and while we may occasionally think about them, it's not with any sense of pity or regret. Instead, it's a reminder that sometimes people's actions catch up with them, no matter how hard they try to avoid the consequences. For Chris and Rosa, their actions eventually led them to a place of isolation and ruin. And while they may never fully understand the impact they had on others, we can take solace in knowing that, in the end, they were held accountable for what they did. Their story, as chaotic and destructive as it was, ultimately served as a harsh but necessary reminder that actions have consequences, and eventually we all must face them. One thing that became clear in the aftermath of their collapse was the sense of relief that came with putting the entire situation behind us. While we haven't been the ones to make the decisions that led to their downfall, we had played a part in the story, and it wasn't exactly an easy role to play. At times, it felt like we were caught in a whirlwind, unsure of what would happen next. But once we made the decision to cut ties with Chris and Rosa, things began to feel a lot more stable. It was like removing a toxic weight from our shoulders, and though the decision was difficult, it was the right one. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of the story. We look forward to seeing you at the next story.